What is NATO and why does it matter? To understand why NATO's collapse would be catastrophic, you first need to understand what NATO actually is. It was April 4, 1949. The ruins of World War II were still fresh. 12 nations, the United States, Canada, France, the United Kingdom, and 8 European states, signed the North Atlantic Treaty in Washington, D.C. The promise was simple. An attack on one is an attack on all. That's Article 5. 3 words that changed the world. For over 75 years, Article 5 was only fully invoked once, after September 11, 2001. When America was attacked, every NATO ally stood beside the United States. Today, NATO has 32 member nations spanning North America and Europe. Its combined military power is unmatched. It has nuclear deterrence, intelligence sharing, and integrated command structures built over decades. NATO is not just a military alliance. It is the backbone of the Western-led world order. And right now, that backbone is fracturing. The cracks that were always there. Here's the uncomfortable truth. NATO has been living a lie for years. In 2014, after Russia annexed Crimea, NATO members agreed that each nation would spend at least 2% of GDP on defense by 2025. By 2017, only 4 countries met that target: the United States, Greece, the United Kingdom, and Poland. Meanwhile, the United States carried most of NATO's military burden. American taxpayers funded the defense of wealthy European nations that often spent less on defense while relying on U.S. protection. Donald Trump didn't create the problem. He amplified it. By 2025, all NATO members finally reached the 2% target for the first time. Defense spending surged, but money was never the only issue. So if everyone is paying more, why are people talking about NATO collapsing? Because the deeper issue is trust. The Iran crisis that broke everything. February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched joint airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. European NATO allies refused to participate. No ships, no direct support. Trump called NATO unreliable and a paper tiger.
I'm so disappointed in NATO because this was a test for NATO. This was a test. You can help us. You don't have to, but if you don't have, if you don't do that, we're going to remember.
European leaders called the moment a transatlantic stress test, but it was more than a test. It exposed a major weakness. NATO was built for collective defense, not for situations where America starts a war and expects allies to follow. Trump reportedly floated the idea of leaving NATO. Legally, leaving NATO isn't simple. Under U.S. law, a president cannot withdraw without Senate or congressional approval. NATO rules also require 1 full year of notice before withdrawal becomes official. But a president could still weaken NATO without formally leaving by reducing military commitments, sharing less intelligence, or weakening trust in Article 5. And that may already be happening. What Europe cannot replace. Europe is increasing defense spending rapidly. By 2035, NATO members aim to spend 5% of GDP on defense. Europe is investing heavily in military independence. But money alone cannot replace what the United States provides. Europe still lacks deep strike capabilities, satellite intelligence, strategic airlift, and advanced missile defense systems. Replacing America's military role could take over a decade and cost around $1 trillion. Without the U.S., NATO's eastern members, especially countries near Russia, would immediately face increased vulnerability. This is the paradox. Europe wants independence, but still depends heavily on American military power. Who benefits? While NATO argues internally, Russia watches closely. Vladimir Putin has long claimed NATO is divided and weak. Now, NATO's own largest member is publicly questioning the alliance. Every visible crack weakens the credibility of Article 5. Countries like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania take this threat seriously because of geography and history. NATO instability affects more than Europe. China, North Korea, and other global powers are also watching closely. 3 possible futures. Scenario 1. NATO survives, but changes. Europe becomes more independent while America remains inside NATO in a smaller role. Scenario 2. NATO splits into 2 groups. Eastern Europe stays closely tied to the United States while Western Europe develops its own defense identity. Scenario 3. Full U.S. withdrawal. America exits NATO entirely, forcing Europe to rebuild its security system over the next decade. Most experts believe NATO will survive, but not necessarily in its current form. NATO is not dead, not yet. The alliance has survived crises before, but today's threat is different because it comes from within. The question isn't just whether NATO survives, it's what kind of world exists if it doesn't. If you found this video valuable, like and subscribe because this story is still unfolding. The world is changing. Stay informed. We'll see you in the next one.